It is interesting to contemplate an entangled bank, clothed with many plants of many kinds, with birds singing on the bushes, with various insects flitting about, and with worms crawling through the damp earth, and to reflect that these elaborately constructed forms, so different from each other and dependent on each other in so complex a manner, have all been produced by laws acting around us. These laws, taken in the largest sense, being growth with reproduction, inheritance, which is almost implied by reproduction, variability from the indirect and direct action of the external conditions of life, a ratio of increase so high as to lead to a struggle for life, and as a consequence to natural selection, entailing divergence of character and the extinction of less improved forms. Thus, from the war of nature, from famine and death, the most exalted object which we are capable of conceiving, namely the production of the higher animals, directly follows. There is grandeur in this view of life, with its several powers having been originally breathed into a few forms or into one, and that whilst this planet has gone cycling on according to the fixed law of gravity, from so simple a beginning, endless forms, most beautiful and most wonderful, have been and are being evolved.
Among the ancestors of all the insects, spiders, the scorpions, the shellfish, the crustaceans, the shrimps, the sponges, there is just one tiny little creature, very insignificant, which we human beings might think is perhaps the most important of all. Because this is the first creature to have the sign of a backbone, and thus, therefore, is probably the ancestor of us all.
It's a tiny, worm-like creature called Pikaia. It was not a fearsome hunter. It had no teeth for attack and no external skeleton for defense. But Pikaia did have something new. Instead of an external skeleton, it had an internal one, a thin, bristly rod, the beginnings of a backbone. It, or something very like it, was the ancestor of all vertebrates.
Wind the tape of time back to Burgess times and let it play again. If Pikaia does not survive in the replay, we are wiped out of future history. All of us. From shark to robin to orangutan. And I don't think that any handicapper, given Burgess evidence as known today, would have granted very favourable odds for the persistence of Pikaia. And so, if you wish to ask the question of the ages, why do humans exist? A major part of the answer, touching those aspects of the issue that science can treat at all, must be because Pikaia survived the Burgess decimation. This response does not cite a single law of nature. It embodies no statement about predictable evolutionary pathways, no calculation of probabilities based on general rules of anatomy or ecology. The survival of Pikaia was a contingency of just history. I do not think that any higher answer can be given, and I cannot imagine that any resolution could be more fascinating. We are the offspring of history, and must establish our own paths in this most diverse and interesting of conceivable universes, one indifferent to our suffering, and therefore offering us maximum freedom to thrive or to fail in our own chosen way.
There is a powerful recognition that stirs within us when we see our own gorgeous little blue ocean planet as it would be seen by others in the skies of other worlds. It's a recognition that never fails to move us. And it is here, in this picture, where Darwin meets Galileo. Because it is a picture that's made possible by Galileo's first experiments with gravitation so long ago, and it is a picture that, to me, shouts evolution. I look at this image and I see our ancestors stepping down from the trees and walking upright for the first time onto the African savannas and pausing to look back at the forest from which they came. And I look at this image and I see a species that is positively unyielding in its pursuit of knowledge and brave and fervent in its longing to grasp the meaning and the significance of its own existence. And finally, I see in this image the very best that humanity has to offer. We are perhaps the small and troubled inhabitants of one tiny little planet, but we are also the dreamers and the thinkers and the explorers who took this picture. One world across 1 billion miles of space to another, the extraordinary citizens of planet Earth.